I, like many others, thought that Iga Swiatek would continue her dominance into 2023 and continue her hold on the big titles, but it's been anything but that so far. Instead, Elena Rybakina and Aryna Sabalenka have been the two standout players of 2023, as both women have headlined the two biggest finals of the season. The gap between Iga and the rest of the field is surely closing, but is the pole actually in danger of seceding her throne? Let's discuss. Elena Rybakina has avenged her Australian Open Finals loss to Aryna Sabalenka, beating the world number 2 7-6-6-4 to win the 2023 BNP Paribas Open title. This is Elena's first 1000 title, and the win brings her to a career-high ranking of 7th in the world. Even though this match was in straight sets, I feel like we saw far more twists and turns than in Melbourne, especially in that first set. The 78-minute opener was crucial and truly could have gone either way. Rybakina essentially sealed the title once she was able to squeak out that first. Elena did outplay Aryna and definitely deserved to win this title. Still, there's very little between these two women, so I'm gonna go over some of the main reasons why the Kazakhstani was victorious in the end. Perhaps the main issue for Sabalenka was missed opportunities. Unlike in the Australian Open final, Aryna did not play the big points well here. Sabalenka did break first and she went up 4-2, but shortly after she lost her advantage due to sloppy play. She did have more chances to take the first set from break points earlier in that set to then having set points and that tiebreaker. Now, Rybakina did let some opportunities go by too, but that was mostly due to Sabalenka stepping up to the plate and playing gutsy tennis. Aryna staved off 5 set points in that first set before having 2 of her own in that tiebreaker, but she kind of gifted them to Rybakina. I know one of them was a double fault, not sure about the other, but I believe the second one was off an unforced error. Then moving on to the second set, even though Elena assumed control for a majority of that set, Aryna did have 2 chances to break back at 3-2, but just could not hunker down to get her lick back. The next major advantage for Rybakina this match was her serve. Elena simply outserved Aryna today, which was different from the Australian Open final, as Sabalenka hit 17 aces to 7 double faults, while Elena hit 9 aces to 1 double fault. Sabalenka's double faults really were her undoing in that opening set, as she served 10 double faults to just 2 aces. Some of that was due to the pressure that Elena applied on return because she was on it, and she was ready for those wide serves, which are Aryna's favorites and go-to serves. She also continued attacking the second serve like she did Iga's, and that definitely pressured Aryna to go for more on second serve. That carried over into early in the second set, where Sabalenka tried to fix her dwindling first serve percentage by taking some pace off of it, but that did not work out well at all, as Rybakina broke to love to start off that second set. The second serve points won is also an important stat to note, because Rybakina managed to win 56% of second serve points, while Aryna managed just 31%. I think a lot of this is because of what I said earlier, just the pressure that Rybakina imposed off that return. Plus, the Kazakh just did her homework and got a much better read on Sabalenka's serve today. It's also important to note that the conditions at Indian Wells were far different than in Melbourne, as it was much more windy out there, so that definitely could have played a role too. As I mentioned earlier, there are very little between these two women, and both are very similar in that their serve and backhands are their two biggest shots on tour. I think generally Aryna has the slight advantage over Elena in the serve department in her ability to get free points, but Rybakina got a lot more free points in my opinion today off her serve than Aryna did. Plus, Rybakina's serve is more consistent overall, as shown by her 9 fewer double faults than the Belarusian. Sabalenka's backhand is better in my opinion, and Rybakina's forehand is the more solid of the two. Out of the two players. I think that shot was the big difference maker in the baseline exchanges today, as Rybakina found herself in more of those forehand to forehand exchanges, which favors her more. I first want to give props to Aryna on a great tournament and a great start to the 2023 season. Before this year, she only won 2 matches at Indian Wells, so to make her way through the final and the conditions that might not suit her game the best is just a true testament to the amount of work she's put in and how much she's improved over the past 12 months. I am a Sabalenka fan, but I am happy that Rybakina was able to get another big title under her belt because she deserves it. She's been playing great tennis this year too, and she's definitely backing up that Wimbledon title well. This was also Elena's first win over Aryna, as Sabalenka won their 4 previous matches. I think this could be a great rivalry for women's tennis, as all their matches are practically guaranteed to be close ones because of how similar these two women play. They also seem to be really good friends as well, as they share this funny little interaction and moment during the trophy ceremony.
It's great results this year and years before. You've done an amazing job with your team, so congratulate. And yeah, it's actually first time it went my way, so we see. Hopefully we're gonna play many more finals.
I'll make sure it was the last one.
No, we see next time. But yeah.
Now, as I alluded to in the intro, one of my biggest takeaways from this tournament is the fact that Iga Swiatek is not in a league in her own at the moment. She's still the deserving number 1, of course, but I honestly would not be surprised if we had someone else in the season as the top player. I first want to start by saying that this year has not been a poor start for Iga by any stretch. She made the second week of Melbourne, losing to the eventual finalist Rybakina. She won the Doha 500 tournament, made the Dubai finals, and then most recently, of course, she made the Indian Wells semis. Almost every other player on tour would be over the moon with those kind of results, but I think our expectations are very, very high for Iga. So it's like anything other than a Champions Trophy is a flop, which is kind of crazy to think about. I did expect her to dominate this year because of all the hard work she put in with her fitness and serve in the offseason, but it hasn't really been good enough to get her a big title yet, and I'm still waiting on that serve to be a big weapon out there consistently on tour against the top returners. Even after she lost in Dubai, I anticipated her to win Indian Wells, especially after those first few matches she had with Andres Gutenberg and Raducanu. I also thought that she would take care of Elena because of her hunger to get revenge, but I've learned that Iga cannot just walk in and get revenge over certain top players. Someone like a Pegula, yes, but Sabalenka, Rybakina, and even Krejcikova is going to be a dogfight. She lost to Barbora Krejcikova and Ostrava in 3 tight sets late last year. She played great tennis there, and then in their next match she was beaten pretty comprehensively in straight sets. Then with Rybakina, she lost even worse than she did in Australia earlier this year. In her losses this season, Iga was not at her best, and I know she was sick in Dubai, and she said that she's still not feeling 100% physically due to pain in her rib, so she might also be a question mark for Miami. Now, excuses aside, I also think her losses are due to the fact that she simply has tougher competition than she did in the past. Now, this might be a little bit controversial, but I don't think Iga would have gone on that winning streak last spring as long as she did if Rybakina, Sabalenka, and even Krejcikova were also at the top of their game around that time. Now, looking back, when Iga went on that streak, Elena wasn't fully confident in her capabilities, and she handed out losses to lower-ranked players left and right. Sabalenka was dealing with her service woes, and that affected a lot of her confidence, and then Krejcikova was out, injured. I was definitely nervous after last year's US Open because I felt like it was a terrible omen for the tour if Swiatek was able to snag a slam playing her B and even C/D level tennis. However, these three, Sabalenka, Rybakina, and Krejcikova, they've upped their level this season, and they're definitely her biggest threats on tour. I'm very excited because there isn't just one big overwhelming favorite anymore. There are multiple strong contenders for these big titles. Still, I feel like there is a big gap between those four: Iga, Aryna, Elena, and Barbora, and the rest of the field, as they haven't gotten their big girl draws yet. I'm talking about the other top 10 women aside from those four. I actually explained this a little bit better with my impromptu ranking system of the top women who I think can contend for the slams and big titles on tour, so I'm just gonna let y'all watch that breakdown now. Okay, so here are my rankings / tiers of the players right now. I'm gonna make it really brief because I don't have a lot of time. So I listed, these are the top girls. These are the girls who are the best of the best. They're pretty much always going to show up and show out at the big tournaments. And I feel like it's a pretty good ranking right now. The top girl is very close, but the top girl in my eyes is Aryna Sabalenka. Then we have Rybakina, Iga, and then Krejcika, but I'm putting her. She's at number 4. She could move back down to sidekicks, but I've been very pleased with what I've seen from her. The next tier is the sidekicks. These are the women who also, they do pretty well at most of the tournaments they enter. Hagula in golf especially, they very rarely have a bad loss. However, they struggle with the top girls. They have bad records against the top girls. There's something missing in their games to really challenge the top girls because the top girls all have big weapons. Not to say that these players don't have weapons, but they don't utilize them well enough against the top girls. Especially golf. She never has a bad loss, but when she loses, it's 9 times out of 10 against the top girl or against her fellow sidekick peers or against the Wounded Birds, which I'll get to later. Sakura, she definitely falls. She could fall under the Wounded Birds as well, but she's a sidekick because I've been impressed by her semifinal showings this year. She could be a top girl, but her record in finals and semifinals is simply abysmal. I believe it's 7-22. That's unacceptable. Bencic, she could potentially fall under Wounded Birds, but I will have her as a sidekick for now due to how well she started off the season. She won Adelaide 2, won Abu Dhabi. She's been falling off. She's had some bad losses recently, so that's what's keeping me from having her high up in this list. Next, we have our Wounded Birds. These are the women who are either have been struggling with injury, physical injury, or mental injury. Now, we have Caroline Garcia. She falls under a mental injury category because right now she has something to where she cannot elevate and get herself back into top girl position. She was never necessarily a top girl. I wouldn't say that. She was high sidekick because she did win Cincinnati. She ate that one little thing. However, and she won the WTA Finals, of course. She ate those 2 little things. She's a little bit inconsistent with it, and she's been having a bit of a sophomore slump since that excellent 2022 season she had towards the end of that year. She's been losing to players she has no business losing to, and really it's been a little bit disappointing because I feel like it makes the tour more interesting because she has the game, she has the skills to contend with the top girls. Next is Ons Jabeur. I feel like last year it was Iga and then Ons. She made 2 slam finals, but she has more of a mental injury. It's both been physical and mental with Ons because she struggled with some type of injury. I forgot what it was, but that hurt her at the beginning of this year, and she's coming from that, so I'll give her a bit of a pass. But regardless of that injury, she's still struggling with something mental that's going on with her as she cannot get over that hump. I honestly don't know. Time might have run out because last year was her opportunity. She had good opportunities to win at Wimbledon, where Rybakina, she wasn't necessarily at the peak of her top girl capabilities. And then Swiatek, she also was not at the top of her peak top girl capabilities. She should have won one of those slams. Time might have ran out because there have been more top girls and the sidekicks are coming for her gig. Next, the final 2 on the 12. The top 12 on my list who can really make the tour great again are the 2 Russians, Veronika Kudermetova and Lyudmila Samsonova. These 2 women have the talent to contend and become top girls themselves. However, they have not yet made a good run in a big tournament. When I say a big tournament, I mean a 1,000 or a slam. They have not contended for a slam or 1,000 title. They need to get over that hump and do that because until then, they would never contend with the top girls. So that's all I have for us right now. This list obviously will change. I think I might make this a series, but this is our first edition of the Christian / GSTNT WTA ranking / tiers. Let me know what y'all think. Now, before I end this video, I want to point out some comments that Iga made regarding this whole discussion around Aryna and Elena possibly catching up to her. Now, after her loss to Rybakina on Friday, a reporter asked Iga whether she thought that Aryna and Elena were big challenges for her on tour. She said, Well, I don't know honestly because I also won many matches against Aryna and I played against Elena, 2 years ago and it was fine. So it's hard for me to take anything under consideration and decide if it's hard or not. I would say that I can still improve as a player and there are some things that I want to focus on. But still, I feel like I can play great tennis even, against top players who are serving pretty fast and everything. But for sure, the last couple of matches against Elena, they weren't perfect for me, but I would try to do better next time. Yes, I get where Iga's coming from and that, she's beaten Aryna and Elena in the past, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I don't know if she quite understands that these are different players that we're seeing in terms of confidence and just overall game-wise, talking about Sabalenka and Rybakina. These aren't the same players that she faced years past, even last year, a few months ago. They're more confident in themselves and their capabilities. And even Aryna last year, you can definitely tell when she faced Iga. It's like she was a shell of her former self. It's like she almost knew that she was going to lose. Now she's a boss woman in her own right, Aryna is, and Elena as well. So it's definitely not going to be as easy as Iga might think it is. I don't know. I feel like she might feel the pressure and she's just not letting on to the press or whatever. But regardless, it definitely will be interesting to see how this saga plays out next in Miami. And I feel like it'll perhaps be even bigger than Indian Wells in revealing who the true top girls on tour are. That's all I have for y'all today. And let me know in the comments what you thought about the final and whether you feel that Elena and Aryna are big threats to Iga. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post my Miami Open Women's Preview. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.